In the video that was released right before this one, I read an email from a man who is from Alabama who played football in Scooba at East Mississippi Community College. The email was about a creature, a legendary creature in around Scooba, Mississippi, called the Scuba Hairy Man. Yesterday, William on Facebook Messenger sent me a link to this article from the Kemper County Messenger about the Scuba Hairy Man. And I think it's real interesting, and it kind of confirms that there is at least a legend down there, and this writer claims that he saw it along with other family members. I don't know who the author is of the article in the newspaper. It's not shown, at least on the internet, but I called the contact name for the paper and asked for permission to narrate this article in a video, and he said it was fine. The article is dated Wednesday, October 16th, 2013. Thoughts of bygone years takes one back to 1943 to 1957, a time when a strange creature roamed the woods of eastern Kemper County, Mississippi. I'm the only one that I know of that has lived to tell of actually seeing this creature, the Scuba's Hairy Man. Was he real? Was it a man or was it a beast? Was he only a figment of one's imagination, or does he still have descendants in our woods today? Mr. Addie Wimberly had moved his family from the farm deep in the woods between Scooba and Electric Mills. He continued to have cows, pigs, and chickens, and a garden at the farm. He began to tell stories of the sighting of a strange creature when he went to the farm. It had left evidence of its visits. Food left out had been eaten, and strange tracks were found. He described it as a large man covered with hair. Thus he became known as Mr. Wimberly's Hairy Man. The Sunday afternoon, my sister Doris and her husband Belton Aust, my brother Kenneth Briggs, and his wife Clara Clifton and I went for a walk in the woods. We soon found ourselves at the Wimberly farm and decided to sit a while and rest. Kenneth decided to walk across an open field to the edge of the woods. It wasn't long until he came running back to tell us that Mr. Wimberly's Hairy Man was down there. No one would agree to go see for themselves, but we agreed to come back later. When we did, we found what we believed to be its den and strange tracks along the little stream nearby. There were others who reported sightings. Dyke Rigdon came home from work and told his wife that he had seen this creature cross the road in front of him. Mr. Lundy Temple and son Herbert saw it and its tracks while turkey hunting. My experience was in May of 1957. Our Uncle Grace Briggs had passed away at the Kemper County Hospital. My sisters Doris and Odessa were riding with me to take his daughter, Olive Phelps, home in Porterville. Between Electric Mills and Porterville, the lights of my car caught this creature standing by the side of the road. Doris and I both knew it was the Hairy Man. Odessa said that she didn't see it. However, a short time before her death in 1997, she told me that she did see it that night, but knew that no one would believe it. Mr. Herbert Temple, a shoe repairman, designed a shoe that made tracks like those of this creature. He walked along the streams, leaving the tracks to excite the hunters. Mr. Hoppy Spinks wrote and recorded a song about the Hairy Man. Our Scuba focus group is using the Scuba Hairy Man theme for the Scuba Fall Festival coming up this month at the Scuba Park. All this is keeping the legend of the Hairy Man alive now and for years to come. Today, as deer season approaches, all you hunters walk cautiously. Who knows but that the descendants of the Hairy Man are lurking behind the trees of East Kemper County. Again, that's an article written in 2013. The writer's recalling his events and encounters with the Scuba Hairy Man, along with other encounters that he had heard. I think it's interesting, and I kind of took the email that I read in the previous video, the one right before this, kind of lightly, but apparently there's some truth to it, or there are others who are reporting similar sightings. I want to thank the Kemper County Messenger for allowing me to read the story from their newspaper, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. Okay, I've got a couple of more stories here I think you're really going to love. One of them is a story a little boy sent me. And the last story is a story where a Native American man recounts his family's encounter with a Bigfoot, and it is a really good story. So, all right, here we go. A few weeks ago, I invited young people, teenagers and younger, to send me even fictional stories. They don't have to be true encounters, as just a little easy exercise in creative writing. Whatever came to their mind, just write the story down from their imagination if they wanted to, and I would put it in a video. And I've done one. Matter of fact, I dedicated a whole video to it. But I've got another one from Milo from California, and he's a little boy, and he took the time to write a story, and he wants to hear it in a video. And Milo, here is your story. I'm gonna throw up a picture here of how he wrote it, and he drew a picture with it. And Milo, I just think this is awesome. I think this is really great, and you did a good job. So here's your story, Milo. Once there was a large forest of pine trees. There had been many sightings of strange creatures in that forest. Nobody had seen a Bigfoot clearly in the forest until one day. A young Sasquatch was sitting in a pine tree. He was listening to the sounds of the birds. Suddenly, he heard other noises. He wandered around the forest trying to find it. Eventually, he got to the noise, which was coming from a cabin surrounded by trees. A little boy was playing outside of his cabin. The Bigfoot saw the little boy, and the little boy saw him. They became friends and played together all day. They were still friends even when they got older. One day, the little boy told the Bigfoot that he had to move to a different house far away on that day. The boy said goodbye and started to leave. They were both sad that they wouldn't see each other for a long time. But the little boy always remembered the Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot always remembered him. Milo, you did a great job on this, buddy. I am so proud of you, and thanks to your father and your parents for letting you send this in. I think you did a great job. I think you should keep writing stories. You're a good writer, buddy. Thank you so much. This story was sent to me by a Native American gentleman, and he wants to keep his name out of it. And I don't blame him, and that's no problem. But he writes, I'm 58 years old. Wow, the years flew by. I'm a Native American and definitely a believer in Sasquatch. For decades, my family has handed down an experience within the family that occurred in the early 50s in South Central Texas. My family are a loving, humble, and truth-loving bunch and are respected in the community that we live in. We've decided to keep this experience from outsiders in order to keep our standing in the community the way it is. You could definitely say I've been a believer since birth, but something changed. In the early 70s, the movie The Legend of Boggy Creek came out, and I was really motivated after that. I couldn't get enough information on Bigfoot. Then I saw the Patterson-Gimlin video on one of those shows by Leonard Nimoy. I think it was called In Search Of. As a young boy, my bed was always near the window because I was the oldest kid. I can remember those summer nights with my chin on the windowsill scanning the nearby woods for any sign or sound. Every now and again, I would catch a whiff of something that smelled like stinky feet mixed with rotten eggs and wet dog. Whew! He writes, sick with an exclamation point. I agree. I never saw anything, but I sure wanted to. Now, as an older man, I know what it was. Now to the encounter. I think it was about 1952 in rural South Texas. I can't remember the exact year. This area of South Texas is river bottom land covered with massively tall pecan trees and oak trees that are hundreds and hundreds of years old. Lots of deer and raccoons, opossums, javelinas, panthers roam these parts, and oh yes, gators, lots of gators. I could never understand why none of my aunts and female cousins never wanted to go camping. I later found out why. The Guadalupe River cuts through this land and it originates high up in the Texas Hill Country. If you ever get the chance to visit, it really is beautiful. Back in the 1950s, there were still 1 and 2 room schoolhouses. That's where my family went to school. Those were simpler times. The late spring of 1952, the bus was dropping off my aunts and cousins at the end of the 2-mile gravel road that led to the farmhouse where my great-grandfather and my grandfather and his family lived. The road was and still is pretty straight and flat. To the left of the road was a 5-foot dike with a 5-foot fence made of heavy timber and barbed wire to keep flood debris and trespassers out. 10 feet total. This detail is important. Normally, the river level is about 20 feet below the banks. The elementary age girls began to walk and giggle and talk among themselves the way little girls do. One of my cousins began to feel like something was wrong. She stopped walking and started to look around slowly. She looked to the right, nothing out of the ordinary, just fields and farm equipment. Then she turned to the left. She saw a 9-foot-tall gorilla. The little girl noticed a big fur ball across the fence, swaying gently from left to right. It was big, black, and weird looking. She told the other girls to look at what she was seeing. The thing had been squatting, but then it began to rise slowly, swaying as it stood. Then, quick as lightning, it put one hand on the fence and from the flat ground jumped the dike and the fence in a single bound. The girls ran as fast as they could, screaming the way only little girls can. The first to come out of the farmhouse was my grandmother, followed closely by my grandfather and my great-grandfather. Needless to say, the 2 men couldn't believe what they were seeing. The Squatch stopped dead in his tracks when he saw my grandfather. They were pointing shotguns at him. My grandfather described the Squatch as a 9-foot gorilla. The 2 men chased the Squatch across the fields as long as they could. Fast as hell is the way my grandpa described his speed. They fired shots in the air until he was out of sight. I don't think they ever saw it again, or at least if they did, they kept it to themselves. I don't think that Squatch wanted to harm the girls. I'm sure it would have been no problem for him if he wanted to. Many of my family are asleep in death, but I look forward to seeing my family again after the great resurrection Jesus spoke of in the scriptures. I've been to many places over the years, the Rockies, the Smokies, the Cascades, the Adirondacks, and the Appalachian Trail, and everywhere I go, I try to be mindful of the sights and sounds and smells that might alert me to the 9-foot gorillas that we share this planet with. I know they're out there, we just have to be patient and be alert. Oh, my wife is not a believer, but that's okay. I love that woman so much, I could never put into words what she really means to me. If you have a spouse that doesn't believe, it's okay. Just be patient with them. We know that these things are out there. Thank you for your time. Please don't use my name. And thanks, and have a great day. Well, what a great story. I mean, 1952, a Native American family have an encounter with a Bigfoot. I mean, what else is there to say about that story? I want to tell the gentleman how much I appreciate how well he writes. This was one of the easiest stories to read. I just loved it. I just absolutely love this story. Thank you, sir, for sending it in. Okay, looks like that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next video. See you next time. Thanks.